What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of J&D Sports Talk. Today I'm just going to be giving you guys my NFL Week 9 predictions. I can't believe it's Week 9 already. I'm filming this video on Thursday night, which is Halloween. It is 5:30 right now, so... Well, it's early evening, I could also say. So, I'm not seeing any of the game before... it starts, so no cheating picks or none of that. But so this video will probably come out a little after or a little before Thursday night football between the Texans and the Jets start. All right, like I said, to start off the week, Texans are going to the Jets. 6-2 versus 2-6, right? Story for the Jets so far. They've been underperforming. They've been nothing but an assembly of a talent and the opposite of what a team is. Meanwhile, for the Texans, they've played really good. They play pretty good football. They're, like I said, they're 6-2. They're playing good games. They've had a lot of injuries in their receiving room, and right now, though, this team looks like they may not go far in the playoffs, only because one, their receivers injuries, but mainly their offensive line. They need to try to address that before the trade deadline. If they can address that, they can do anything. But I'm going to take the Texans in this one. I said the last 2 weeks to you guys, straight to this camera, that I think the Jets will turn it around this week. And they didn't. They lost to the Bills on Monday night, and then they lost to the Patriots. So now that I'm going to pick the Titans, the Jets are probably going to win. But I'm going with Texans in this one. It's going to be a good game, I hope. All right, next up, we got the Cowboys going to Atlanta. Dallas is 3-4. Their story of the season has been bad football. They haven't played good. Offensive line has looked not that great. Dak hasn't looked great. Everybody on the offense, pretty much besides CeeDee Lamb, and then their defense has been softer than vanilla ice cream. Hopefully they turn it around. They still can, but time is ticking for Dallas. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, first-year head coach with Kirk Cousins, a talented team, talented offense. Good players on the defense, Jesse Bates, Jesse Simmons, Grady Jarrett, A.J. Terrell. And on the offensive side of the ball, Drake London, Bijan, Tyler, Kyle Pitts. A lot of talented players on that team with a pretty unexperienced coaching staff. I'm going to take Dallas in this one. I hope they turn it around. I think they will, but this is almost a must-win game for Dallas. They got to stay close with Philly and Washington, and they got to beat these teams that they might see in the playoffs. Next up, we got the Dolphins going to Buffalo. Buffalo is 6-2, and Miami is the exact opposite, 2-6. Miami had a couple rough games to start the season. They lost Tua for a while, and they played really bad football while he was gone. And they got him back, and they lost last week on a game-winning field goal. This Dolphins offensive line is really, really bad. And meanwhile, for Buffalo, they played pretty good football, better than what a lot of people were expecting. And their receivers are stepping up. Keon Coleman had a really good game against Seattle. Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook. And on the defense side of the ball, they have a few good players. Like I said, though, 6-2, they're off to a good start. And I think they're going to continue that good start, building off a win against Seattle last week. They're going to win against Miami this week. Next up, we got the Raiders going to Cincinnati. Raiders are 2-6, and the Bengals are 3-5. The story for the Raiders is they haven't had solid quarterback play, a lot of frustration among players, and stuff like that. What we expected Vegas to be, basically. Meanwhile, for the Bengals, their defense has been really, really bad this season. Not really giving them momentum. But their offense has been pretty good, especially the last 3-4 games. For the most part, of course. But I think Cincinnati's going to win this one. I think they'll go to 4-5 of the season. And I think they'll start a win streak here and maybe try to get themselves in that 6 or 7 seed in the very, very competitive AFC. Next up, we got the Chargers and the Browns. This game was a tough one to predict. This one could really go either way. 4-3 Chargers. They played pretty good football, sometimes inconsistent. Justin Herbert has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the last month. It's they've been playing really good football, both of them. No, they haven't. What am I talking about? Cleveland just had one good game, but this was this was a tough game to predict. I think, like I said, it could go either way. Chargers 4-3. Harbaugh has that lower NFL roster playing pretty good for the most part and consistent, like I said. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, they've suffered loss after loss after loss after loss. They make a court. Jameis Winston comes in for Deshaun Watson, and he lifts up the Ravens defense, kind of. But like I said, tough game to predict. I'm going to go with the Browns here. I'm going to go with an upset. Chargers last week, they had a good game against New Orleans. I believe it was like 28-6. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, they had a nice win over the Ravens. I think they're going to build off that, but this was a tough game to predict. It could really go either way, but I'm going to take Cleveland in this one. Next up, we got a little toilet bowl here. We got the Patriots going to Tennessee. This game was tough to predict because which team is going to score 10 points? I don't think Drake May is going to be back in this one. Either way, Patriots aren't a good football team. They did have a good win last week against the Jets. Meanwhile, for the Titans, they had an embarrassing game last week against the Lions. It was like 52-14. 14-14 apiece in the second quarter. It all went from there. But I'm going to take the Titans in this one. I really thought I'm going to take the home team. Titans got the home field advantage, like I just said. They haven't been playing good football, but I think they're going to take this one. They're going to improve to 2-6. Meanwhile, New England's going to turn to 2-7. Next up, we got the Commanders going to the Giants, and I'm going to take the Commanders in this one. I don't really see any chance this is an upset. Commanders are 6-2. They've been overperforming for a lot of people's expectations so far this season. Jaden Daniels has been balling out. Terry McLaurin finally got a good quarterback. Dan Quinn has been doing a phenomenal job as head coach thus far. And meanwhile, for the Giants, they're exactly as we expected to be. Not a great quarterback, not a good receiving room. Tyrone Tracy Jr. hasn't been bad. Not a great offensive line. And besides a few pieces on the defense, specifically the D-line, they don't really have it on that defense. Give me Commanders in this one. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints going to Carolina to take on my Panthers. Panthers are home in this one. So far for the season with Carolina, it's been kind of rough, pretty rough. A lot of injuries, a lot of different stuff going on, and just a lot of frustration overall. Hoping we string together some wins for the rest of the season and see how Bryce does. He is going to get his second consecutive start, so hopefully he does better. Meanwhile, for New Orleans, they started the season 2-0, looking like a top 5 team in the NFL, only to go on a 6-game losing streak. And I think it's going to turn 7. Give me Carolina in this one. I think we have a pretty good chance to win this. Saints, 6-game losing streak, coming to our house. And Bryce Young, we're trying to prove himself. It's going to have a good game. Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette. I don't know if Adam Thielen will be back. And Tommy Tremble, Jatavion Sanders. He'll do pretty good. Drew Hubbard. Maybe Jonathan Brooks. Maybe. I think he'll start against the Giants in Germany or after the bye. But we will see. Give me Carolina. Next up, we got the Broncos going to Ravens for our last 1 o'clock game. I'm going to take the Ravens in this one. I don't think this is really a debate. Fuck the Broncos. I'm not talking about them. Pieces of shit. But for the Ravens, come off a tough loss last week. It's kind of concerning that they don't win the games they should. But that's been the story for the Ravens for the last few years, especially later in the season. Give me Baltimore by 40. Next up, 4 o'clock window is Chicago going to Arizona. This was a very tough game to predict. I looked at people's predictions, and it's 50-50. I'm going to take the Bears in this one. Bears are 4-3. Cardinals are 4-4. If the Cardinals win this game, they will be above 500. And if they do, I will be very happy for them. Meanwhile, Chicago, if they win this game, they will be 2 games above 500, improving to 503. 503. 5-3. I think Chicago win this one. It's going to be a close game, though. It's going to be a good one. Next up, we got the Jaguars going to Philadelphia. I'm going to take Philadelphia in this one. Jaguars 2-6 so far. They've had a rough season. Not a really good culture. Offense, a lot of miscues and stuff like that. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, they're not playing as good as they should be, but I think they'll improve to 6-2 this Sunday. Next up, we got the Lions and the Packers. Now, let me just say something to the Lions real quick. Okay, I like you guys. I think you're a really good football team, and, if the Panthers don't make the Super Bowl, or my dad's team, the Cowboys, don't make the Super Bowl, I probably want the Lions to fucking win it, okay? But I don't want their fans to ruin it like the Eagles fans do, okay? Because they're out here calling people out, laughing at other stuff and stuff like that. They're kind of starting to get cocky. Like, they haven't been good for 20 years. You guys are now on another winning season. Calm down a bit. Don't be cocky. Stay humble. But I'm going to take the Lions in this one. I think it's going to be a good one. Jordan Love or not, Jared Goff or not. I think they're both going to play, though. I think Lions will win this one. Lions are playing really good football. Like I just said, put up 52 points last week. I think they're going to keep that going and improve to 7-1. The Lions. While Green Bay will drop to 6-3. Next up, we got the Rams going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. This one was another tough one to predict because the Rams coming off a nice win against Minnesota. Meanwhile, for Seattle, they're coming off an ass kicking against Buffalo. Division rivalry. Seattle's at home, Lumen Field. Buffalo took over it last week, but I don't think the Rams will take over this week. I'm going to go with Seattle here. This is not the upset, but I think Seattle's going to win. I think it's going to be a really good game. I like these 4 o'clock window games. I think they're going to be good ones. Like I said, though, both Rams came off a good win, an upset win, and Seattle came off a ass kicking. So we're going to have to see how Seattle responds. I think they're going to respond pretty positively. All right, our final 2 games of the week. We got the Colts going to Minnesota to take on the Vikings in what I think will be one of the best Sunday Night Football games of the year. I think it's going to be a closer one than people think. And I'm going to take the Colts in this one. Colts on the road with Flacco. They made that quarterback change this week. I think the Colts will win this one. It's going to be a good game, though, and I'm pulling for Colts for the upset. And finally, we got Monday Night Football. Tampa Bay 4-4. Going to Kansas City, going to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. I could definitely see the Bucs winning, but the Chiefs are 7-0 right now. They're playing good football, especially Spagnuolo's defense, and I think they're going to keep that going. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you check out our TikTok and Twitter at J&B Sports Talk. Subscribe, comment down below what you think is going to happen this week, and I will see you guys in the next episode.